last few days, we've seen how multiple locations in Dubai have also come under attack. Now, the UAE president has made a public appearance. Now, this is very significant. The president of the UAE visiting the Dubai Mall. So in a clear indication and trying to show that all is well, that things are returning to normalcy at a time when there were a lot of concerns on the situation in Dubai because multiple civilian areas were also hit in the strikes from Iran. So the UAE president seen with Dubai's crown prince in the Dubai Mall, and Hina, very clearly this is an indication or a messaging that the Dubai top brass is trying to give out, that Dubai is returning to normalcy, that it remains a safe haven. Absolutely. So we have guests joining us on the broadcast as well. Let's speak about what this means. Ashok Sajjanar, former diplomat, on the broadcast with us. We also have Lieutenant General Sanjay Kulkarni, defense expert, and Lieutenant General Kejes Dhillon as well on the broadcast. I'll begin with you, Lieutenant General Dhillon, on what these visuals really mean, because for the longest time, Dubai was seen as a safe haven. It has been a symbol of wealth, of the travel hub of the world, but that also came under attack, and the message from Iran very clearly being that there is no state in the entire region that is going to be insulated from its attacks. Has Dubai now ensured some damage control with the crown prince in the streets of Dubai, in the Dubai Mall, or do you think the red line has been crossed? There's no looking back.
Good evening, ma'am, and good evening to the fellow panelists, rather good afternoon to the fellow panelists and your viewers. See, these are optics, and they are to reassure the public, because Dubai has always been seen as a very safe place for business, for travel and for living. And they want to maintain that entity of Dubai or identity of Dubai. And I think a lot of people I have spoken to who are in Dubai, either living or traveling, and a lot of people you have spoken who have come back from Dubai. I think a lot is made out of it. On ground, situation is quite normal. People are roaming around. Only thing is, people are a little cautious. And since Dubai has never witnessed anything like this before, there are certain apprehensions. But overall, I would say Dubai still continues to be a very peaceful city and good for business. These ups and downs will happen during wartime. And I think just a passing phase. But overall, I would put it as absolutely normal.
Okay, all right, Hina, you know, in the multiple visuals that we are getting in as well, the world also seems divided. On one hand, you have many who are saying, yes, the regime in Iran was not popular, but it was wrong, or it is a violation of the international charter for US and Israel to move in like this.
Well, absolutely. And the world clearly is taking sides, is what we are witnessing right now. And before we talk about that aspect, let's also quickly bring our viewers up to speed with the kind of US assets that have been targeted by Iran over the last 3 days. Remember, it's day 4 of the war. Let's talk about the specific assets. We're talking about the assets in Qatar. The Al Udeid Air Base was targeted. In Kuwait, we had Ali Al Salam Air Base of the United States of America that was targeted in UAE. Now, this all happened during the first 2 days of the war. In UAE, Al Dhafra Air Base was targeted, and then in Bahrain, US Navy 5th Fleet Headquarters was also targeted. And then the Sheikh Isa Air Base was also targeted. It also came under attack by the Iranians. Now, in Iraq as well, Ain al-Assad Air Base and Erbil Air Base was targeted. We just showed our viewers some visuals from Erbil Air Base as well that was targeted. In Saudi Arabia, near Prince Sultan Air Base area, US Embassy in Riyadh also came under attack in Saudi Arabia by Iranians. And in Jordan, we had the Muwaffaq al-Salti Air Base. So this is in fact a sense of the kind of places where US assets, viewers, were targeted by Iran during this conflict over the last 3 days. And as Pratibha was mentioning earlier, the world clearly is taking sides now. These are the countries that are in direct fight with each other. An operation that was started by America and Israel together against Iran. It's essentially a fight between these three, with America and Israel on one side and Iran on the other. Both of them initially suggested that the idea is a regime change. They wanted the terrorist regime in Iran to go away. Now that has happened. Now we are looking at what next. what will it take to end really the war? And this is a sense of, the other countries that Iran has also struck simultaneously in response to this joint operation by Israel and the United States of America. Lebanon, of course, has been struck. You've got Lebanon, in fact, has been struck because Hezbollah is there. It's Israel that's now fighting Lebanon as well. Two-front war there for Israel, one with Iran and one with Lebanon. In UAE, Iran targeted crucial American sites. In Saudi Arabia as well, crucial American sites were targeted along with the Ras Tanura refinery. Saudi Arabia has already, expressed desire to join the conflict against Iran with US and Israel. Then you've got Bahrain, Qatar, Cyprus, Oman, Iraq, Jordan and Kuwait. So this is a sense of the regions where we are witnessing, in a way, conflict now expanding to. Pratibha, now it's important to understand how it has become, in a way, a wider regional conflict. It's no longer limited to just 3 countries.
Absolutely. And, the question of Russia as well as China also comes in. As of now, we've seen China take the strongest position. And Lieutenant General Kulkarni, if you can come in here on what this would mean. What is the kind of support that Iran can really expect from Russia and China? For now, they've condemned what has happened in Iran, the US and Israeli action. But there is no other support that is coming in.
See, Chinese have already stated clearly that they have no role to play in Iran and they haven't given anything much to Iran. But notwithstanding, the Chinese have great interest in Iran because they've signed a $400 billion 30-year deal for supply of crude oil to China. So that's a huge thing. The Russians have also signed with a deal of almost the same amount with the Chinese for gas. So there is so much, and 85% of the entire thing to China, to Japan, to South Korea, all of it flows through the Strait of Hormuz. So much so, even for India, the world dependency is 20%. Even for India, the crude dependency is over 50%. Gas is over 60%. So obviously the Strait of Hormuz requires to be kept open. Otherwise, there's bound to be huge rate going up. You've already suffered having, I think, around $75 to a barrel now, might go up to $100 to a barrel subsequently. So there is a amount, great interest all of these countries have of wanting to keep the Strait of Hormuz open. And in that context, I find that the Americans are insisting that the way they are virtually incapacitating the Iranian Navy is indicative that they want to keep the Strait of Hormuz open and not annoy the world. Because it's very important. The Russians are also have given a statement to say that yes, they do not agree with it, but the Chinese have virtually distanced themselves a bit of it in it. The world doesn't seem to be in it. And more than anything else, I would like to here state that as long as the Iranians were targeting the American bases in West Asia, well, everybody kept quiet. But since the Iranians are now targeting the assets of the West Asian countries, that is going to be a problem, because that raises an issue between the Arabs and the Persians. And therefore, this is a century-old dispute which goes on for the leadership between the Arabs and the Persians. Therefore, I think the Iranians now need to be careful not to target. And what the visuals that you're trying to show of Dubai is indicative of wanting to raise the confidence of the people that they are quite safe and happy.
Yes.
And it does raise the morale of the people also.
You know, questions also being raised on Iran on whether they had the right strategy in actually isolating themselves with these attacks in all the Gulf states. But if you have Russia and China on one side, if at all, even if there is any tacit support being extended, Iran finds itself completely isolated in one place. While many would argue, of course, when they're faced with an existential threat, isolation is not their immediate concern. But Hina, in breaking down for us the details of the countries, there are many who have also come out in support, which has only increased with Iran now firing on all sides.
Absolutely. So let's take our viewers through who stands where as far as this war is concerned. It's very important. Like I said earlier, that, it was started as an operation by US and Israel, by President Trump and Prime Minister of Israel, Benjamin Netanyahu. Later, we saw other countries also expressing their support. We had Keir Starmer, we had French President Emmanuel Macron, we had the Saudis also making it very clear that they will like to join this fight against Iran, because what Iran did in retaliation was target the assets of America in other parts of Middle East, and the kind of attack that we've seen on the oil refinery, world's largest oil refinery, which is a key energy hub for Saudi, the Ras Tanura refinery. Of course, no country is going to be happy with that. So Saudis have also decided to be a part of this bloc that has US, Israel, France, UK. And on the other side, you've got other set of countries. Now, this is important. You've got Supreme Leader of Iran, Khamenei, who has been assassinated, who is killed, but Iran is getting very aggressive. Iran is targeting, American assets and whatever it can think of in parts of Middle East, and its proxies have also gotten activated. Then you've got Russian President Vladimir Putin. In what form will Russia be a part of this war? What support will Russia give to Iran? That remains to be seen. Then you've got China as well. Now remember, China factor, viewers, here is very important, because if you look at Iran, Iran also exports oil. We don't buy a lot of oil from a country like Iran. Our top exporter is Iraq and Saudi Arabia, in that order. But China depends heavily on Iran for its oil supply. And for China, Strait of Hormuz is also very, very important. So while our dependence on Iranian oil reduced over the last few years, China's dependence on Iranian oil actually went up by about 80-odd%. So for China, Iran's stability is extremely important. But in what form will China and Russia support Iran in this war against these countries? That remains to be seen.
Okay, Ambassador Sajjanar, on what we are seeing, as Hina was also pointing out, the countries have very clearly been divided. We don't know how this could proceed from here. It could go on for weeks together. But on the question of why the US even decided to attack Iran in this joint operation with Israel, the US itself seemed to be indicating that its hand was forced by Israel, that they were planning to attack, and then US thought there could be a counter-attack, which is why they came in as well. Does this put into question the negotiations that had been put in place in the first place? Negotiations were ongoing when the attacks took place. Now, is there any room for more negotiations with the new regime in Iran coming in?
Yeah, I think, thank you for having me. I think it is still far away in terms of seeing what a stable new regime in Iran is going to look like. I think right at the beginning, because as we've been talking, it's only the 4th day of the conflict. I think all sides seems to have made very many presumptions which have proved to be miscalculations in this period. For instance, if I could just mention 2 of them. Number 1, I don't think the United States was really prepared that Iran is going to come out in such a strong way in terms of hitting out at Israel, and particularly at, not only at the American assets in the Gulf region, but also hitting out at civilian places, at commercial centers, at malls, at airports, etc. I think this was not expected by the United States. This was not expected by even these countries. And that is why you see that right at the beginning, when these attacks first took place, there was so much of disquiet and there was so much of anxiety. Of course, after this, they have got much more how to deal with it. They are coming to terms with it. And I think even as far as Iran is concerned, it would not have seen that there would be so much of, that the attack would take place on the supreme leader itself. And that is what has taken it by surprise. And so there have been miscalculations, I think, on both the sides. And we'll really have to wait and see how things pan out. As far as a regime change is concerned, I think even the United States and Israel, both of them are increasingly distancing themselves from this, because as we have discussed in your, in times now earlier programs, that there didn't seem to be any program, any plan for the day after, that after you take out the top leadership, what is going to happen? And the reliance of the United States that the people of Iran are going to rise and take up the power in their own hands from the Islamic State. Right. That doesn't seem to be happening because there seems to be a very strong infrastructure that is available as far as Iran is concerned, and they seem to be unrelenting in their attacks and opposition as far as America, Israel, and even the Gulf states. The last point I'd like to make here is, I think Iran has really shot itself in the foot. It has committed a blunder by going out against all the Gulf states, because that has alienated all of them, and that is not to the benefit of Iran.
Okay.